Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, by Hashem Yahweh Shah, by Hashem Rakak Radash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of GMS that rule well. Peace, love, and salutations to all the brothers out there pushing this word of sincerity and the truth. Shalom to the brothers, sisters, and children that they're keeping this word of sincerity and the truth. Okay, this article had came across. Well, I think when I opened up the app, this article had pulled up and then it refreshed, and I had went back to go find it. And as I read through it, I wanted to bring out a couple points. And it's not really something that you might. It's not really one of those lessons you hear a lot about, or hear a lot of. So Lord will is edifying and helpful for anybody that needs to hear it. So I'm gonna start with this article. It says medical expert issues warning to men about to take part in No Nut November, which this is a stupid challenge or whatever you want to call it to begin with. It's stupid, because this is worldly. This has nothing to do with what they try to say, practicing self-discipline and self-control. It has nothing to do with that. 1 month out of the year, you vowing not to, ejaculate or whatever you want to call it. Whether you in a relationship or not, like, this is stupid. It says No Nut November is just around the corner, but if you're thinking of abstaining from ejaculating for 30 days, you might want to listen to the medical experts warning first. For the entirety of next month, some folks will be taking sex and masturbation off of the menu as they take part in the viral challenge. It's supposedly a test of willpower and self-discipline. However, this health expert reckons that taking part in it could do you more harm than good, which is completely stupid, just to say that it can do you more harm than good, because there's prominent men in the scriptures who didn't marry, who didn't have a woman, who didn't have a wife, and they wasn't this wasn't even a concern. And I'm gonna bring out a lot of information on this because I have done a lot of research on it. And I know earlier in the year, I forgot exactly which month, I had started bringing out things about this. Well, not this. It was more about corn. But all of this ties into it, So, Abaratus, our Lord will, I go back into some of that information too. But it says it's supposedly a test of willpower and self-discipline. However, this expert reckons that partaking in it could do you more harm than good. Dr. Rena Malik previously took to her YouTube channel to explain how semen retention can affect you and your sexual health. She explained that missing out on masturbation and intercourse during a month of November can impact your physical and mental health too, as well as your relationships. The urologist and pelvic surgeon explained the rules of NNN dictate that people aren't ejaculate. It doesn't mean that they can't orgasm. And this is the person, and I've seen her page before. Never really watched or listened to her, but from what I'm seeing on this article, this makes no sense. I don't care what she studied, It makes no sense saying that it can do you more harm than good, because we're gonna go into it. And I don't know how long this article is. I don't want to really read all of this. But I'm going to get a couple of it. It says, but the doctor warned that if you're trying to really focus on having orgasms without ejaculation, you can get fixated on the prospect and become fixated on edging. All of this is madness because none of this is scripture. None of this is in the Bible. And I'm going to get the definition of the word masturbation, the etymology of the word masturbation, But let me get to the bottom of this article. Let me see. We'll start here. It says this essentially means avoiding corn instead. And I'd say it like that because I don't know if they have a filter or whatever on YouTube. Instead of ejaculation, as she believes the adult content has a lot of potential dangerous side effects, particularly if you're watching violent or unrealistic stuff. All of it's unrealistic. It can actually really affect your brain and the way you perceive sex and the way you have relationships with other people, she added. Yeah, because all this stuff is wicked. It's literally wicked. You know, this is straight madness. And this is what's allowed in this man's kingdom. It's allowed in Esau's kingdom. Here it is. You can't have multiple wives, which is righteous, a righteous thing to do. A man to have variety, have multiple wives, build his legacy and have women to assist that. But corn is available to everybody. This man is backwards. And there's there's no condemnation for it. They're paying people to put their content out, knowing that people are going to masturbate to it. And like I said, we're gonna get the definition of it. It says, so if you're trying to try something, so if you want to try something new for November, try to hold off on corn rather than holding off ejaculation. Other health experts have also stated that NNN doesn't bring many benefits, but if you're still not convinced by the professionals, you can get information straight from the horse's mouth and see what people who have taken part in a month-long challenge really thought of it. So, like I said, you can pull up the article, but let's get into some of these words. So first and foremost, I got the definition of the word masturbate or masturbation on etymology online. Now, it says to masturbate, produce an orgasm by stimulation of the genitals. In 1839, a back formation from masturbation, or else Latin masturbatus, past principle of masturbare. The earlier form was masturprate, dishonestly to touch one's pre-utis. Let's look this up. Just to see if we can get the word. Or maybe they spelled it wrong. I'm not sure. Oh, okay. It's an archaic term that refers to the genitals or private parts of the body. Privity, right, which historically meant a private matter or a secret. Right, so like it said, to dishonestly touch you're basically your private parts, aka masturbate. It says dishonesty, but let's get more into it. Now, this is masturbation, deliberate erotic self-stimulation. And to get to this paragraph, the second paragraph, the long-standing speculation is that the Latin word is altered, probably by influence of turbar, to disturb or confuse, and it's going into more forms of the word. But to break it down, manu, or the beginning master, which it goes into manu, that's what it's starting with. It goes into hand, and stirri, or when you get this bait, masturbate, it says to defile oneself. To defile oneself using your hands. Defilement or dishonor. It says to be stunned, stupefied. And stupefied is in the scriptures too. The word was I think it's stupor. To make someone semi-conscious or unable to think clearly. It says see stupid. And then it goes into, different forms, like it says, the penis. Let's see. It's another word I need to get into as well. It says slang, the slang term for masturbate or masturbation, because this goes into not only just men, but women. It says to box the gisette, to choof, to chuffer, to claw, to digigate. This is going into what women do. See, to bob, to make a quick, short movement up and down, to cause something to make a quick, short movement up and down, make a sudden move so as it appear or disappear, to make appear or disappear. This is how women get into masturbation. This is what they do. It says to handle, to endorse, to milk, to dash one's doodle. You know, it's just going into different terms. It says texting. And then it says sometimes known as keeping down the senses, which this is what I wanted to get to. Then I went into the definition of the word senses. Here it is. It says census, the process. A census is an official count of a population typically conducted by a national government. So basically population control. It's a form of population control. Instead of having sex like you're supposed to, like the Lord designed it to be, it's a form of population to control. Because now if you're not having sex with a woman, or a woman is not having sex with a man, the population is not increasing. And that defeats the purpose. You know, let's get a couple scriptures, because it's kind of a lot of information. This is Jeremiah 10 verses 1. Hear ye the word of the Lord. Hear ye the word which the Lord speaketh unto you, O house of Israel. Thus saith the Lord: learn not the way of the heathen, and be not dismayed at the signs of heaven, for the heathen are dismayed at them. But it says, learn not the way of the heathen. These are ways that the heathens have. We have learned the ways of the heathens. This is not our culture to do anything like that. They are literally advocating for you to defile yourself, because that's what the definition of masturbate goes into, to defile oneself. Let's go back to it. To dishonestly touch one's privates, to disturb, to defilement, to dishonor. That's what this world is convincing you to do. Because they're saying, which, like I said again, this whole no nut November thing, this is straight madness. It's stupid. That's of the world. And that's why I'd also call them stupid. Now, I wanted to, did I want to get this? I don't think it went into, I mean, it went into something, but not really what I was trying to go into. Yeah, it didn't really go into that. So, this is the definition of the word masturbate, and what it really means, and what it goes back into. Every time you do that, you're defiling yourself. You're dishonestly abusing, because it was, that's what I wanted to get to. Let's go. See, here it is again. Defilement, dishonor, to defile, using your hand to defile your body. But it was another, I think it was on Google. Yeah, here we go. The word AI overview. The word and I had to censor it so it won't pop up with stuff that probably YouTube would have flagged me for. It says the word masturbation comes from the Latin masturbare, a combination of manus, which is hand, and turbare, to disturb. The Latin word literally translates to disturb with the hand. Right. To disturb with the hand, to agitate. And this is what you're doing to yourself when you do that. You know, I want to see what this say. And that's one thing they at least got right. It says whether masturbation is a sin depends on interpretation within different faiths and denominations, as there is no consensus. Some religious traditions, including parts of Christianity and Judaism, consider it sinful, often citing verses related to sexual purity or the story of Onan, which what he did was he had sex with his brothers. What happened, which it was going into that on that other thing, but I didn't really want to go into that story. But I guess I'll mention it since it came back up. Long story short, Judah, our forefather Judah, I forgot which the name. Well, we can get it. Might as well get it. All right, this is Genesis 38, starting at verse 1. And it came to pass at the time that Judah went down from his brethren and turned into a certain Adulamite, whose name was Hira. And Judah saw there a daughter of a certain Canaanite, whose name was Shua. And he took her and went into her. And she conceived and bare a son and called his name And she conceived again and bare a son and called his name Onan. And she conceived yet again and bare a son, and he called his name Shelah, and he was a Chesb when she bare him, or he was at. And Judah took a wife for his firstborn, whose name was Tamar. And Judah's firstborn, was wicked in the sight of the Lord, and the Lord slew him. And Judah said to Onan, go into thy brother's wife and marry her, and raise up seed to thy brother. Now I'm going to read 7 and 8 in the AMP. But Judah's firstborn, was evil in the sight of the Lord, and the Lord killed him in judgment. Then Judah told Onan, go into your brother's widow and perform your duty as a brother-in-law under the Levirate marriage custom, to be her husband, raise children for the name of your brother. Onan knew that the child or heir would not be his, but his dead brother's. So whenever he lay with his brother's widow, he spilled his seed on the ground to prevent conception, so that he would not give a child to his brother. Because in our laws, if you had a brother and he married a wife, but he didn't have children by her, and he died before he had seed, you as the brother was supposed to marry the woman and give her a child, and give her a son. You were supposed to give her a son and raise up a son, and he's going to carry on the lineage of the of your dead brother, of his father. Would have been father. That's literally in our laws. Let's see. But what he did was displeasing in the sight of the Lord. Therefore, he killed him also in judgment. So this is what the story that they're referencing, which that wasn't a form of masturbation, not in the sense of what it actually means. Because masturbation, it goes into self-defilement. You doing this to yourself. But what he did was he had sex with his brother's wife, but he knew that if he actually got her pregnant, the seed wouldn't be his. It wouldn't be his heir. It'd be his brother. So literally everything that was the inheritance, the land, and anything else that was supposed to be for his brothers, it wouldn't go to him. That wouldn't be for his seed. That would be for his brother's seed. Basically, he can't take it for himself. It still has to be for his brother, even though his brother is dead and gone. And what he thought was, if I can't have it for myself, why should I give it for my, why should my brother still have a chance to have it? He not even here no more, Basically, that's the way he was thinking. So what he did was, instead of getting her pregnant, he pulled out, and spilled it on the ground. But that wasn't really masturbation according to the definition and the etymology of it, So anyways, I'm gonna go back. I kind of want to go back to the article because it says right here, it's supposedly a test of willpower and self-discipline. However, this health expert reckons that taking part in it could do you more harm than good. And it's talking about abstaining from basically ejaculation as a man, which I'm gonna go into the benefits of it. Because they try to talk about, they basically trying to say it's really more negative, doing you more harm than good. And they're trying to advocate for men to masturbate or release, which that's wicked, So let's, first and foremost, I want to go into instant gratification. Now, this is the definition of instant gratification. It says instant gratification is the desire for pleasure or satisfaction without delay, often driven by impulsivity and a focus on short-term rewards. It involves seeking immediate solutions or pleasures, which can be natural instinct, but can lead to negative long-term consequences like debt or lower achievement, as opposed to delayed gratification, which requires self-discipline for a larger future reward. Examples include making impulse purchases, checking social media frequently, or seeking immediate relief from stress. Now, the immediate reward, the primary focus is on getting a reward right away with little regard for potential future consequences. And the impulsivity is closely linked to impulsive behaviors, where one might act on a whim without thinking through the long-term effects. The emotional drive, the limbic system of the brain, which is associated with emotions, prioritize instant pleasure or safety, making it easier to succumb to the desire for immediate gratification, especially under success. And short-term relief, it says it can provide temporary relief from boredom or stress, but it does not address the root cause of those feelings. So I want to get that picture right there, actually. The cycle of instant gratification starts with the urge or the want to avoid a certain task. And then, we just start there. Then it says the pleasurable activity, watching Netflix, scrolling through social media, etc. The feeling rewarded, your brain releases dopamine and encourages you to opt for pleasurable activity next time. Every time when you have to deal with a difficult task, it triggers that urge again. And now you're in the cycle of instant gratification, which is something that's not easy to break because this is like an addiction. And somewhere, I think it said it's like an addiction. But anyways, let's go to instant gratification sexually. Instant gratification sexually is the desire to seek and receive immediate sexual pleasures without considering long-term emotional consequences, often by prioritizing quick satisfaction over deeper emotional intimacy or commitment. This can manifest as impulsive sexual encounters, a reliance on committed to relationships, or behaviors driven by the need for immediate validation. The concept is rooted in the brain's pleasure principle, but can lead to feeling unfulfilled in the long run, especially in a society with many easy-to-access outlets for immediate sexual relief. Now, let's see. Which it's not bringing out what I want. I'm trying not to be too specific, but I might have to. It says short-term focus, prioritizing immediate pleasure over long-term emotional fulfillment, relationship building, or personal growth. Because sitting there just defiling yourself, masturbation, that's against what the Lord created the purpose of sex for. He created it for repopulation and made it pleasurable so that we would do it more, not so that we would do it to ourselves. You can't produce life like that. Life literally ends the moment you're done. It doesn't go anywhere, and you're not building or bonding with anyone when you do that. It's literally telling you that it makes you feel worse when you do that. Impulsive behavior, engaging in sexual activity impulsively without considering future feelings or consequences. And this is going into casual dating too. This ain't just masturbation. This is basically being broad, saying this is what comes with all of it in general. Seeking validation, using sexual encounters to gain immediate validation, attention, or a sense of self-worth. And this is what the mass majority of people do, especially women. They do these things thinking that it's making them feel better, and they're getting worse. It's making them feel worse on the inside. Especially when they realize they a lot of women regret the men that they've been with. Especially when you you deal with them, or you might not even deal with them. You might just be talking to them, or you ain't got to talk to them. You might say a few words for them, and then they just keep talking, and they don't stop. And when they get to that type of subject, if they willing to share that information, they'll tell you they regret half the dudes they did it with, they had sex with, and this is literally all the reasons why. And how it affects them. Seeking validation, using sexual encounters to gain immediate validation, attention, or a sense of self-worth. Avoiding emotional depth, preferring fleeting physical connections over the effort required for a deeper, committed relationship. This is literally the modern American experience, dealing with these American women. Dating apps and online interaction. Over-reliance on dating apps to find immediate partners, which can reinforce the cycle of instant gratification. That's why these women be racking up these bodies. It's another reason. They be racking up all these bodies, and you ask them about their body count, it's a touchy subject. You have a better chance of asking a woman her age than her body count. That's a touchy subject that they will always lie about. Potential downsides: emotional emptiness. The momentary high of instant gratification can lead to a feeling of emptiness or a lack of true satisfaction because deeper emotional needs are not being met. Right. You can't be fulfilled because that's not what it was designed to do. And of course, this is going into, like I said, a broad sense of things. This is just going into people sleeping around with each other, and there is no form of connection with that. You give it up to this man that you don't know or you barely know, and now he done hit, he's satisfied, he going by his day, but now you're not fulfilled, and you want to escape, just like this cycle, you're going to want to escape those feelings and emotions, so you're going to go and do it again, thinking that that's going to suppress it long enough so that you can enjoy the next portion of your life, or till something change. But then nothing changes, so then you got to do it again. And then these women just be racking up all these bodies. Unfulfilled desires. The pursuit of fleeting pleasure can prevent individuals from finding enduring satisfaction and can distract from meaningful personal goals. And having this mindset of being stuck in this cycle really does hinder people from their full potential, And I know this kind of, I ain't even received it, hindered relationships. And I was trying to stay on the topic of, what the article was going into, but apparently all of this do need to come out, So I'm going to just keep going. Hindered relationships. It can damage the ability to form healthy, long-term relationships that require communication, patience, and emotional commitment, and poor decision making. The focus on immediate reward can cloud judgment and lead to negative consequences in the long term. Right. Which I ain't gonna play the video. See? This is literally what's, I ain't gonna click title, but it says advice. All instant gratification is an addictive poison that let me just see what they say. That slowly but surely destroys your mind and ruins your life from the inside out. All instant gratification is harmful to your overall well-being because of one reason. It teaches you that life is about extracting empty, fleeting pleasures, which never leaves us satisfied. Now, where was the instant gratification includes each of the following: all social media platforms, apps, websites, scrolling through Instagram, TikTok, Vine, YouTube, Reddit, 9gag, which I don't even know what that is, Facebook, etc. Video games and mobile games, unless you're competing in tournaments. If you feel pleasure at flicking a screen or a controller, it is instant gratification, my friend. Do not believe the lies, which everybody got their vices. If you do it, if you just constantly, which I get what they saying, because you got a lot of people that's just constantly on it. Like they overdo it. They be on the game 10 to 12 hours without accomplishing anything, without doing anything. They don't even shower. They barely eat. They just constantly playing the game. They don't attend to their life. All drugs and alcohol, including marijuana and tobacco, which of course, this is going into abusing things, because we're not supposed to do drugs, but you can drink. There's nothing wrong with drinking, but you do have people who become alcoholic. Sugary foods and drinks, which that's a no-brainer. Preserved and processed meat, fast food, sugary, salty, and fried, food, gambling, corn, a masturbation and edging. That's literally what they was telling you in the article to do. They was telling you to do that. Which I ain't gonna read all that. I just want to bring out that point. But this is all that comes with that instant gratification. And a part of masturbation and instant gratification goes hand in hand. Because if you're not in a situation where you're with a partner, man and woman, I say it like that. If you're not in a situation where you're with someone that you're building with, or, you're with your partner, you're with the person you're with the person you're supposed to be with, your spouse, partner makes it sound like, you're on the same level. So you're not with your spouse, your wife, of course, in this modern day age, we have to say girlfriend, but the woman that you're with, the man that you're with, if it's not that, and you have to be patient, which goes into delayed gratification. Now, this is the definition. It says delayed gratification, and this is the complete opposite of instant gratification. Delayed gratification is the ability to resist an immediate reward for a larger, more valuable reward in the future. This skill is crucial for self-control and achieving long-term goals, such as saving money instead of spending it, or studying for an exam instead of watching TV. Strategies to improve it include setting realistic goals, breaking down large tasks, and practicing self-control. And this is what they were saying were some of the benefits of the, but they doing it as a challenge, as a yearly challenge thing, instead of it being something that you practice when you're in a position to do so. If you're a man and you're single, you don't have a woman, or whatever the case may be, this really needs to be your mindset, unless you go and deal with a woman, because we are men. So if you can't control, matter of fact, let me get that. This is I'm start at 1. This is 1 Corinthians 1 starting at verse. 1 Corinthians chapter 1 starting. This is 1 Corinthians 7 starting at verse 1 in the AMP. Now as to matters of which you wrote, it is good, beneficial, and advantages for a man not to touch a woman outside of marriage. See, if you're single, it's good, it's a benefit to you to not have a woman, to not deal with a woman. And we are going into the definition of delayed gratification. Because true enough, having a woman and being able to have sex with a woman and everything bond, that's a form of gratification. But it says the ability to wait. What is the ability to wait? Delayed gratification is the act of resisting a smaller intermediate pleasure to gain a more significant or enduring benefit later. A form of self-control. It involves overriding immediate impulses in favor of long-term success and satisfaction. Contrast with instant gratification. It is the opposite of instant gratification, which is the tendency to seek immediate pleasure and satisfaction without considering future consequences. Now, this is the benefits. Long-term success. It is linked to better academic performance, financial stability, and overall physical and mental well-being. It improves self-regulation, meaning it strengthens self-control, leading to better decision-making and a greater sense of accomplishment. So when Paul said it's good, it's beneficial and advantageous, he wasn't lying. But, verse 2, but because of the temptation to partake in sexual immorality, which it goes into fornication, and I'm gonna get the definition of fornication. Let each man have his own wife, and let each woman have her own husband. I'm gonna read that in the KJV. Nevertheless, to avoid fornication, let every man have his own wife, and let every white woman have her own husband. And let's get fornication. And I'm gonna let him say the word.
Strong's G 4202. Parnaya.
As you can see, this is where corn come from. But all it means is metaphorically, but it's also literally illicit sexual intercourse. We can read verses A and B, and C, but A, it says adultery. First thing, adultery, fornication, les, intercourse with animals, which is all the thing. And then it says sexual intercourse with close relatives, Leviticus 18. So it's telling you where all the illicit forms of sexual intercourse, the Lord says, it is located. This is what it all goes into. And this is what you will find on corn. You will find all these different references on corn. Let's go to the root.
Strong's G 4203. Parnuo.
Again, to prostitute one's body to the lust of another, to give one's self to unlawful sexual intercourse, to commit fornication, and then metaphorically to be given to idolatry, to worship idols. That's what it also means too. Let's go to another root.
Strong's G 4204. Parne.
Yeah, and you can see the word clearly. You see what it goes right into. A woman who sells her body for sexual uses, a prostitute, a harlot, one who yields herself to defilement for the sake of gain. You literally, OnlyFans, they literally have an app for it now, or a website, whatever it is, OnlyFans. This is what it all goes into. This is all illicit or unlawful, unrighteous in the eyes of the Lord. Any woman indulging in unlawful sexual intercourse, whether for gain or for lust, metaphorically, it still goes into idolatry.
Strong's G 4205. Parnas.
It also says a man who prostitute his body for another's lust for hire, a male prostitute, because now all of this is on corn, and now you got the whole alphabet community is on a whole nother level. A man who indulges in unlawful sexual intercourse, so anything that's unlawful according to the Lord, So that's literally covering everything. So that's why Paul said it like that. Nevertheless, to avoid all the different traps you can fall into because of human nature and because the world we living in, let every man marry, let every man have his wife that can't contain, and let every woman get a husband that can't contain, so that you can avoid all of that. Instead of being involved into that, you be involved with each other. You know how it was designed to be. Now, verse 3 in the AMP. The husband must fulfill his marital duty to his wife with good will and kindness, and likewise to the wife to her husband, meaning a part of your marital duty is to have sex, because this is what it's going into. A part of your marital duty is to have sex. Verse 4, the wife does not have exclusive authority over her own body, but the husband shares with her. And likewise, the husband does not have exclusive authority over his body, but the wife shares with him. So that means, look, you can't withhold sex from your spouse. You know, you can't do that, because that will push them to go and do something outside of the regulations. It'll cause them to go into fornication. It'll cause a man to go and start dealing with another one, which that ain't unlawful, but he can possibly get caught up into something else, and that'll destroy y'all relationship. You know, because sex is also meant to bond a man and a woman together. But if y'all not having sex, it's gonna be friction in the relationship, and it's gonna cause that man to deal with another woman. Either he gonna deal with another woman, or that's single, or he might mess around and deal with a woman that's taken, which we weren't designed to deal with one woman anyway, but we in captivity. You know, things it's hard trying to deal with multiple women, and we trying to get out of here anyway. But likewise, the man don't need to withhold sex from the woman, because it's unlawful for a woman to deal with another man while that man is alive. So if he's withholding from her, she can possibly go and commit adultery, and you will be setting her up to do it. See, verse 5, do not deprive each other of marriageable rights, except perhaps by mutual consent for a time, so that you may devote yourself unhindered to prayer, but come together again, so Satan will not tempt you to sin because of your lack of self-control. Now let's get that in another translation. Matter of fact, let's just pull it up. NLT. Do not deprive each other of sexual relations unless you both agree to refrain from sexual intimacy for a limited time, so you can give yourselves more completely to prayer. Afterward, you should come together again, so Satan won't be able to tempt you because of your lack of self-control. So it's literally telling you, look, y'all need to get busy. You know, don't be withholding sex from each other, because if you do that, you're going to destroy the relationship, and it's going to cause somebody to step out and possibly go sin. You know, again, a man dealing with another woman that's not married, or not dealing with a man that's not unlawful. That literally is lawful, but he has the potential to deal with a woman that's not married. I mean, a woman that's married. You know, and in today's society, these women, 9 times out of 10, they have some man that they dealing with, and they'll go deal with another man. It's not wise. Verse 6, but I am saying this as a concession, not as a commandment. Meaning he giving his advice on how to deal with these situations and while we in captivity. But he's not saying that this is a commandment. Verse 7, I wish that all the people were as I am, but each person has his own gift from the Most High, one of this kind and one of that. Paul didn't deal with no woman, and Yahweh Shai didn't deal with no woman. So they understand the benefits of delayed gratification. Verse 9 is the point. Verse 8, but I say to the unmarried and the widows that as a practical matter, It is good if they remain single and entirely devoted to the Lord as I am. Right. But if they do not have sufficient self-control, they should marry, for it's better to marry than to burn with passion. Meaning, if you can't control your sexual urges, look, you need to, like, see, NLT. But if they can't control themselves, they should go ahead and marry. It is better to marry than to burn with lust. So it's better to marry than to not be able to control your impulses and possibly get into a situation where the Lord will judge you for it, So going back to delayed gratification, because Paul and Yahweh Shai didn't deal with no women, Yahweh Shai most definitely in his latter and when he came as Yahweh Shai, he didn't deal with no women, and he understood delayed gratification. Because that's like which this is gonna be there will be a whole longer lesson if I went into all of that. But you had an understanding of sexual energy, and sexual energy it can be, what is it, transmuted? I think the word is transmuted, which means it can be utilized in other parts of your life. Because sexual energy is one of the strongest energies in the human body, That's why them urges be so strong. And I'm gonna get delayed there it is. It says, in a sexual context, delayed gratification refers to the ability to resist immediate sexual gratification in favor of a more fulfilling experience later on. It involves resisting impulses, withholding sexual activity despite the presence of arousal or desire, focusing on long-term goals, which means prioritizing future sexual satisfactions over immediate pleasure. This is all this is all the opposite, which the main focal point of the topic was from that article, was telling people, look, it's better to masturbate than to practice self-control. That's basically what that article was going into. It says building sexual tension, deliberately prolonging sexual foreplay to enhance anticipation and excitement. Okay, that's a little different. Developing self-control, cultivating the ability to regulate sexual impulses and make conscious decisions. Make conscious decisions. So this is delayed gratification. They didn't put no date on it. They didn't say, okay, for 1 month you practice this and you get these benefits. It don't, because people doing it for the wrong reason. They doing it as a challenge. Like we read in the scriptures. Look, if you got a woman, you don't need to be doing that. What are you doing going 30 days, telling her, nah, I'm doing this challenge? Like what? That don't make any sense, But that's of the world. And like we read, Paul said, look, if y'all do wait, it need to be a mutual agreement for a certain amount of time. And then afterwards, y'all need to come back together, Not nowhere in the Bible where you going to see where it say 30-day challenge, It's stupid. Benefits of delayed gratification in sexual relationships include enhanced intimacy, deepening emotional connection and trust by demonstrating patience and respect. That's why women can't that's why they can't bond with you. They can't pair bond, because they done already gave it up to so many men that that portion of their brain is turned off. It's exhausted. They can't bond with you. Women wasn't designed to be with multiple men. You were never designed to be that way. Increased satisfaction, reduced risk of regret, avoiding sexual encounters that may lead to guilt or shame due to immediate gratification. What is that? Is that a plane? Flying low. Reduced risk of regret. Like I said earlier, I didn't even know I was going to make a point about it. Like I said earlier, the majority of women who got all these bodies, they regret the men they've had sex with. They literally regret it. You know, it leads to guilt or shame. And guess what? The next man that that has to deal with her has to deal with all of that regret and shame that she picked up from dealing with all these other men. You know, he has to deal with that, and then on top of that, he has to deal with if she does masturbate, he got to deal with that too. It tells you, we went over some of the effects of instant gratification. You know, masturbation goes with that. I might end it on looking that up. You know, matter of fact, I might get it now. I don't even know how to spell it. Well, yes, I do. As a matter of fact, it's not to the brain, just in general. And we're just going to get to the point. It says guilt and shame, addiction and compulsion, anxiety and depression, less interest in partnered sex, and mental fatigue. Reduced sexual sensitivity, genital soreness and swelling, physical exhaustion, lower back pain. They're literally telling you, infertility or low sperm count, erectile, well, it say debunk myths about masturbation. They talking about false beliefs. Infertility or low sperm count, erectile dysfunction, blindness or poor eyesight, acne, hair loss or hairy palms, weakness or insanity. This is what debunked it? That's what I want to know. Because I never really believe when they talk about these things are debunked, you know. And then they say it's old myths. So obviously, this is something that it's got to be some type of truth to it. Because Esau tried to come back and say, "Oh well, no, that's not true." Just like that woman or whoever whoever this person is, just like they saying that it ain't no health. It ain't no downside to masturbation, but we literally looked up the definition of it. It's not righteous. It's a wicked thing to do. You know, you're abusing yourself. You're defiling your own body. That's not how it was designed. It's not designed to be that way. You know. What does that say? It says, whereas when you're masturbating, you can enjoy the number of benefits it brings, which also help your emotions. But we just looked up all the negative, the downside. This is literally harming your emotions. And they try to tell you normal, moderate, but it's not normal. It's not normal at all. Nowhere in the Bible does it tell you to do this. You know? So again, going back to delayed gratification sexually, look at all the benefits. This world gotta go. And in all these ways in the world is gonna go with it. You know? I might come back and kind of do another lesson to this and kind of clean it up, because it was other points I wanted to go into and bring out. I kind of feel like I didn't really stay on topic, but Lord Wood is edifying for someone. You know, Lord Wood is an edifying lesson. So on that note, I want to close out, give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Rakakudash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of GMS that rule well. Peace, love, and salutations to all the brothers out there pushing his word of sincerity and the truth. Shalom to the brothers, sisters, and children out there keeping his word of sincerity and the truth. Until next time, shalom.